Welcome to Teams Tuesday, a podcast about mastering the best about what other people have already figured out. Teams Tuesday focuses on insights and lessons that never expire. You will walk away from every episode with actionable insights that help you get better results and be more productive.
This was about as bizarre and easy as it gets.
The client just couldn't make up their mind.
I feel like we had top.
Went from a project of 20 weeks to just 2.
The DevOps was a cultural shift.
This is Teams Tuesday with your host, Peter Ward.
Welcome to Teams Tuesday. It's the last Teams Tuesday of the year. My God, this year has gone very quick. Okay, my name is Peter Ward. I'm the host of Teams Tuesday. This will be going across SoundCloud and our Spotify. Got a great guest. We've got Amaranda. Welcome to Teams Tuesday show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Peter. Thanks so much.
All right, so you're in Richmond, Virginia, and you're Microsoft MVP. You're going to be talking a little bit more about AI and SharePoint Premium and automation, and really what that brings to the, the product stack. So how long have you been working with SharePoint? That's my question here.
So I have over 15 years of experience working with SharePoint tech stack, and to probably most of your surprise, I've worked with every single version of SharePoint since its inception. So that goes back all the way to SharePoint 2001.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I started on 2003, so you beat me on that one, actually. Okay. Yes, it's changed. So do you miss the WSPs?
No, not at all. I don't miss them a minute. I remember the old days of writing XML files in MOS, SharePoint 2007, and building all the configuration files. No, I don't miss anything. I'm looking forward to Copilot experience now.
Okay, pushing anything into the GAC. I remember those, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then central administration, the central admin disappears for a good 6 seconds, and you're wondering, is it going to come back up?
Yeah. Do you remember the days of user profile not able to sync and those problems? That service was one of the most painful ones to work with. But
what about the SharePoint search? Sometimes it wouldn't quite find everything, which was a key selling point of SharePoint.
Well, that goes back to how they tag the content, right? So search is only as good as your content and your labels. So if you don't tag your content with the right labels, chances are you won't find it.
Yes, and one of the key selling points of 2007, I remember, was My Sites, which would be the first thing everybody turns off on a deployment. On that. All right, so let's just quick about yourself. SharePoint 2001, so you beat me on this. Your first job out of college was a 3D image gen. What's going on here? This seems like leading edge, I have to say.
Well, I don't know if 3D image gen is definitely leading, but cutting edge. But I went to University of Louisiana in Lafayette in 2009, and I came in here as an international student to pursue my master's. And I went to different professors looking for work when I was studying, when I was pursuing my master's. So I found one in mechanics department, and it was, I don't remember the name. I should remember the professor's name, but basically he was generating some graphs and images based on the data using MATLAB. That was a software, and that's what I helped him with. Pretty much graphical representation of the data using a technology called MATLAB.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Is this a little bit like the GIS stuff?
Similar, yes. Yep.
Right. Okay.
With all the heat graphs and heat, like where the concentrated data is, similar. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like Hotjar for the Mac almost. I don't know if you're familiar with Hotjar. All right. So you're talking about Copilot. Copilot is very rock and roll. In fact, AI is 2023 is the year of the AI becoming rather change from being a weird and wonderful technology to something which everybody wants to get their hands on. So you mean looking at Copilot, I mean, what's the what's the buzz? What are the things you're really impressed with about on this?
So with Copilot, let's take a step back and see how different technologies kind of rock the world, right? So I stole a slide from, I think, Steven, one of the MVPs. So he compared how long it took to reach 100 million users for Facebook, for internet, and for mobile and everything. And everything was like years or months. And Copilot, or generative AI in general, took 3 months to reach 1 million users. So that's quite astounding. So we think mobile transformed the world, right? And that took like maybe 5 years to reach 1 million users. And then this Copilot or generative AI took 3 months to reach 1 million users. That's amazing to me. So Copilot is there essentially to boost the productivity, right? So for example, I'm creating a SharePoint page, and in SharePoint Online, even today, I have to go search for the right image and right content to begin with and spend some time to spin up that page, right? So with Copilot, I can just, in a natural language, ask Copilot to create me a SharePoint page for e-commerce client, let's say. And then it creates the page probably 10 times more creative than me and 10 times more impressive in less than a few minutes. And that's my starting point. And instead of searching for the kind of right verbiage and right images and whatnot, I can focus on what I need to do for the client instead of kind of spending my time on getting things right on that page. So it boosts your productivity like anything. And 70% of the users who use Copilot already, they're saying they cannot live without it. So that's the evidence right there.
So that slide you're talking about, I've used that slide a few times in my presentations, I have to say. Okay, yes. I've seen similar slides about like the product life cycle, about the Sony Walkman took 8 years to get this far, ChatGPT, Facebook took this, Instagram, TikTok, ChatGPT took days to do this. Okay, I've seen that. I've seen that. Pretty cool on that. Interesting enough, like a lot of people are commenting on the price of Copilots. What are your thoughts on this?
So Copilot is $30 per user, and there's a minimum seat 300 that you need to buy. So there's that cost, yes. But if you look at it, I'm from a consulting background, or even if you're not, you have to look at like how much time it's saving you on a monthly basis. So if my bill rate is, I'm just making up numbers, right? If my bill rate is $100, saves me at least 5 hours for the month I'm talking about. That's $500 versus $30 for license. So that's a no-brainer for me if you compare $30 to $500. But at the same time, so that's the key. So you have to find the right users who can leverage the tool to the best of its ability so that they can improve their productivity. That's when you see the gains. So it seems kind of expensive, which is $30 per user, but when you put that into the right user's hands and when they use it in the right way, it saves you probably 10 times more the money, at least.
Okay. Of course, as a consultant, you normally bill by the hour. So how does that help?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So I can build more probably now. Instead of 40, I can build 50 right now. I'm just kidding.
Well, there is that. If you're using things like Copilot or any automation tool, the productivity wins are off the scales. And I would definitely say that's the case. So in terms of integrating like the AI component into things like SharePoint and the other parts of the Microsoft stack, where would you say, where would you say with like SharePoint Premium? Where do you think that brings the AI part to the party?
So maybe that's the meat of the presentation, right? So where content meets AI. So traditionally, we have been kind of building the content, developing the content, and making sure it's shared with the right set of people, and making sure it's governed in the right way, and making sure we are managing the life cycle of content. All of that is going to be kind of helped by the AI in a sense. So you can automatically kind of review some of the sites that are overshared, and you can kind of kick off the processes, automated process to kick off like a site reviews, like, hey, this site looks kind of an oddity. It's shared with too many people. Do you mind reviewing? Or that's like managing the content kind of life cycle and make sure the governance is in place, right? So how do you create the content? Let's say I'm creating a content like a SOW for one of my client. And with the standardized templates, you can create the content at scale using standard templates in minutes. And you fill the client name, it autofills all the remaining details, and then you can create a contract in no time. And you can compare that contract with the template to see the deviations, to see where the difference was, so that you can adjust the contract. So you can create a content at scale on the fly in no time, and then you can control the life cycle of the content, and by applying sensitivity labels, retention labels, and whatnot. So based on the content that you find in the document, you can apply different labels that can protect the data to a certain number of months or years, depending on your policies. And then again, when it comes to governance, you can govern the content by kicking off automated site review processes, and then by getting the reports of extensive shared sites and applying restrictive policies on the sites. So you can apply a restrictive policy at the higher level, and even though you share the file inside a SharePoint site by mistake, the higher level policy would protect it from being shared. So you can do all sorts of things. So you can create content at scale, you can process the content at scale, and you can govern the content in different sites.
Yep.
So which is basically preparing the content for Copilot. So that's what you're doing with SharePoint Premium, is you're grounding the content, and you're making your Copilot experience is only going to be as good as your content management, right? So underneath, how are you managing your content? How are you protecting your content? Are you having the right permissions on your content, based on which your Copilot experience would be defined? So it's essential that you focus on content management. And with SharePoint Premium, AI is infused to fuel all those things that we just discussed.
Right. It's almost a bit like, like SharePoint is always renowned for like meta tagging the data and everything, all stuff that unfortunately it relies on the end user to do. And exactly. One of the problems with the word collaboration, it means that I have to do extra work to help somebody else. It might help somebody else, but it doesn't actually help me.
Yeah.
which is why I'd rather just email the attachment to somebody. Okay, it's easier here, but in automated, I don't need to do an extra step, but it actually helps other people. So exactly. It's great for the teamwork. Yes, my question was going to do like lead in to the demonstration, to the demo. That's I'm on there. Right. So with that being said, do you want to share your screen and we can look at the demo?
Yep, absolutely. So there's not like a demo, but I have a bunch of slides that I can go through. So
right, go for it.
Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep, I do see that. Yes.
All right. So let me press this and switch to presenter mode. All right. So SharePoint Premium, it's an advanced content management and experience platform. It's pretty much an evolution of Syntex. So Microsoft introduced SharePoint Syntex like maybe a couple of years ago, and then it changed the name to Microsoft Syntex from SharePoint Syntex. And now Syntex is becoming SharePoint Premium. So SharePoint Premium is Microsoft Syntex plus more. So that's how I define SharePoint Premium. So it's an advanced content management and experience platform that brings AI and automation and added security to your content. And SharePoint Premium delivers new ways to engage with most critical content and how you can manage and protect content through its life cycles and eventually govern the content in the right way. And SharePoint Premium is where the content meets AI, or AI meets content. So they go in hand. As you rightly pointed out, in our previous years of SharePoint, the challenge was always like the users had to tag the documents with the right keywords and with the right metadata. That's what was driving the search experience and collaboration and user adoption and all of that. And here is where SharePoint Premium has AI features where it automatically tags your content based on the content within those documents. So SharePoint Premium has 3 modules. So content experiences, content processes, and content governance. And we're going to look into each of these a bit more closely in the following session. But for the AI to work to the best of its ability, for the Copilot to work to the best of its ability, you need to have the proper content management, which is what drives the AI experience. So AI and content needs to be best friends for the best of both worlds experiences. So there are three different kind of modules, right? So SharePoint Premium offers new ways to boost the productivity with high value documents that are created in documents. It's called Business Documents app, which we'll see in a moment. So Business Documents app is a Teams app, and it's gonna be where you stay for the most of the day, which is Microsoft Teams. So within the Teams, there's going to be Business Documents app, which would have high value documents that you can create, and you can review which contracts are expiring, and you can automatically label different contracts, and you can kind of at scale sign the documents, like you can sign a bunch of documents at a time in Business Documents in Microsoft Teams, which is an app. And then content processing is where like the shift from Microsoft Syntex to SharePoint Premium. So
we have a quick question came in. Can you define what a high value document is? Someone asked that.
A high value document could be a contract with your client about certain services. So again, I'm from a consulting background. It could be client SOW, or it could be a services agreement. It could be a master services agreement. It could be NDA. It could be any of the business kind of centric process document. It could be any of those.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All right, and then let's move on. Sorry, is there any other question?
There was someone asked me. I'll just interrupt you now. Someone's asked me. Okay, you got SharePoint Premium. This is someone's asking. Is this on-prem or is it M365?
It's M365.
Yeah, that's what I can say.
Yep.
And the other question that someone's asking was, what's the price of this? Is it on this? How's in terms of the user base?
That's a great question. So SharePoint Premium has pay-as-you-go model. So it has a few different models, licensing models. At this point of time, it's offering pay-as-you-go for certain aspects of SharePoint Premium features. For example, content processing. So if you want to process the content using pre-built models, there's a certain price, which is a 0.01 cents per transaction. And if you want to process some images, there is a certain price, which is 0.05 cents or $0.05, I think. So depending on what you're trying to do and what kind of content you're trying to process, there's a different sets of kind of, add-ons, if you will. So it's a pay-as-you-go model, and you get basic features, and then you pay a little bit more based on what you're trying to do.
Is it like a little bit a la carte, would you say?
Yeah.
Okay, and is this Azure consumption? I'm assuming is this Azure consumption, or is this broken down to the app?
So it is. So Azure consumption is more like it comes into the picture when you talk about the Microsoft Archive and backup and all of that, using the storage that you would use. But content processing or SharePoint Premium features at this point of time are like based on the types of documents that you're trying to process and how many documents that you're trying to process. So are they images? Are they standard documents? Or is it unstructured content? So based on the content, so there's different pricing.
Okay, that's all the questions so far. Else I'm just going to continue to interrupt you.
Absolutely, no problem. Feel free to interrupt me. So content processing. So SharePoint Premium offers services including content assembly and e-signature and document processing. So to help maximize the content value using AI-driven automation. So essentially, content processing is Microsoft Syntex, right? So you can process the content at scale. So you can create the content at scale using the templated contracts, let's say. And then once you create those documents and you can upload them to SharePoint Premium, it would process those documents, and it can extract key data from those documents and store it as columns in your SharePoint. And then once it extracts the key piece of information from those documents, you can essentially integrate with Power Platform or Graph APIs to basically build applications on top of that data that's extracted from those documents. So e-signature is the new feature that's been introduced into SharePoint Premium. So it also supports Adobe and DocuSign. But let's say you want to collaborate with external vendors and you need their signature on the document, and SharePoint offers e-signatures at no additional cost, which is part of the content processing module.
Yeah, that's super useful because we use because DocuSign actually has a connector into SharePoint, which I can push a document out, a PDF out to you in DocuSign. You can sign it, and then it comes back into the SharePoint world. But of course, DocuSign charge you for a number of, I think, envelopes, I believe.
Sure.
Okay, so that here, it's Microsoft. It's included in your Microsoft subscription.
Yep, absolutely. And moving on to content governance, SharePoint Premium helps admins to maintain security and compliance by managing the content through its life cycle. Again, as I've said, you can look at how many sites have been shared with external people. You can kick off review processes, and the site owners can take a look at who it's being shared with. They can adjust the sharing permissions, or they can add or remove users. And that way you're basically making the sites compliant and making sure the standard security practices are applied to your content. Again, depending on what user has access to, that's what they're going to find in Microsoft Copilot if and when they use it, right? So they're like, show me the documents from Project Contoso. And it would only show the documents that the user has access to. So if you don't have the proper security standards in place, it's going to display everything. So it's critical for any organizations to maintain the right security practices to have the tight control on the access to your content.
Right.
So we would dive into each of these features in a separate slide, which is content experiences, right? So content experience is where you can use business documents. As if you can see this on the left, you can see it's an animation that I copied from Microsoft website. So it's basically you can create a SOW, statement of work, using a standard template. And the app is within the teams. So there could be agreements or there could be contracts. And they will be stored they'll be stored in SharePoint, but the UI would be in Microsoft Teams, using which you can see which contracts are up for renewal, and you can get some of the insights, and you can create the content using standard templates, using documents, business documents app. And you can build contracts inside the Word using content assembly. Again, if you fill the client name, it's going to fill the remaining details for you automatically for the new contracts. And then you can extend content to external suppliers or vendors using document portal. So that's where all these e-signatures and all of that is going to come into the picture. And that document portal is going to match the look and feel of your company, your organization, so that it feels like a seamless experience when you're sharing your site or documents with an external vendor. So content experience, in a sense, is you can create the contracts or content using standard templates by leveraging content assembly using the business documents app, which lives in Microsoft Teams. And then you can share the same experience with external vendors using document portal. Any questions on content experience?
Someone was asking about user base. Okay, so this is to do a case study here. This is, say, someone in legal or in contracts. Where does it, how vanilla is this? Like, I'm assuming like a master services agreement is going to be different for a professional services and a products company. Have you, in this template library, I'm assuming there's hundreds, is that correct?
Right. So you can have more than one template. So you can, as you can see here they're categorized by different BUs or departments, business units or departments. For example, legal could be one, HR could be one, or external vendors could be one, whatever, right? So there are different kind of templates that you would have in your organization, and you create those templates. It's a one-time process. And then you leverage those templates to create multiple contracts or agreements after that.
Right. Okay. No questions so far. However, they do come in. Okay. Oh, with the e-signature, someone's asking about is it replacing DocuSign or is it complementing DocuSign? Someone's asking.
It's none of those, I think. So SharePoint is not replacing DocuSign, so SharePoint has e-signature. SharePoint Premium has e-signature out of the box. So if you want to leverage a SharePoint e-signature, there's no additional cost. But for some reason, let's say you have already been using DocuSign and you want to keep on using DocuSign, you can continue to do so, but you have to pay obviously for DocuSign integration, right? So it's kind of a complement in a way, but you can choose to use SharePoint e-signature if you wish. at no additional cost.
Right. Okay. That was that question.
Yeah.
On that front. All right.
So SharePoint Premium content processes is where you can use AI to classify, tag, and secure the documents, right? So content is the blood of any organization. That's how different teams collaborate. That's how people create outstanding experiences for their clients. And that's how organizations turn content into knowledge, right? So it's basically content is the key. And one of the key metric Microsoft shared is there are 2.3 billion documents that are added to SharePoint on a daily basis. 2.3 billion documents.
Wow.
So that's enormous amounts of content that's getting added every day. So how do you classify the information? How do you extract key piece of information from those documents is going to be key. And that's where you can use AI to automatically classify the documents using what was called Microsoft syntax before, now SharePoint Premium, depending on what content it is, whether it's unstructured document or structured document, or whether there are images coming from scanners, you can upload volumes of data into SharePoint Premium, and then you can create AI models to classify that content for you. And based on the key piece of information that you can extract from those documents, you can automatically tag and apply different sensitivity labels and retention labels, or kick off the retention policies based on what you extract. And there you have the integration with Microsoft Graph and Evergreen Power Platform applications, right? So you can build applications on top of the content that you extracted from different types of documents. So that's where you can leverage AI to classify different documents at scale. And SharePoint e-signature we just discussed, and it also includes support for Adobe and DocuSign integrations. And there are more features coming in 2024. So based on the type of content that SharePoint Premium sees, it can autofill and auto create some of the columns for you. And it can detect the personally identifiable information, PII data, and it can redact the data as well. So those are some of the features that are coming up in 2024, but they're in preview at the moment.
Well, here's a question from myself. Where does this all go wrong? Like everyone says, like you've heard of the whole sorcerer's apprentice problem. When you've got automation, and where does this all go wrong, or where can it go wrong?
So where it can go wrong is in terms of like who you're sharing these documents with, right? So there could be some of the key documents. Security is essentially a critical aspect managing the content. So there could be hundreds of documents, and there could be sensitive information that's living in those documents, and you could extract those key pieces of information. And by mistake, that you could potentially share these documents with external vendors, let's say. We all know how complicated compliance issues are, and you don't want to end up in the press for the wrong reasons, right? So exposing key information to the wrong personnel is where it could go wrong, and you have to have tight control on who is having access, what kind of information is in your documents. And in order to know what kind of information is living in your document, you need to process those documents. And that's where content processing would help you, right? So I have had a client that had like 8 floors of papers lying everywhere in different shelves and cabinets, all in paper, and some of them hand signed, handwritten, stuff like that. So how do you process that kind of volume of data and classify the data in the right way so that you know what's what, and you know what data is shared with whom? And that's where some of the advanced controls that are part of SharePoint Premium would come into the picture to identify those sites or documents that are overly shared, and then you can review those on the fly.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. It's like everything. It's like it's all good. It's like it's all good until it doesn't work. Okay. And particularly when you've got massive amounts of content being tagged or whatever, when it needs to be retagged or removed or moved somewhere, that can become like it can become a massive science project.
Yep. And also, where you asked the question where it could go wrong is content processing is, again, it puts a human expertise into the mix of things. So traditional machine learning languages or traditional AI has been like more of a black box to most of us, right? So you feed the AI with a set of documents and it spits the output and you just consume it. Whereas with SharePoint Premium and Microsoft Syntax, you leverage the content expertise that you have and build the content models, build the models that can process these content. So the key information that you're extracting from these documents, it can only be as good as your models, right? So you have to have enough knowledge to build those models to extract the kind of data that you want to extract from those documents. So your content knowledge workers are going to be key here, and creating those models with the right knowledge is going to be key in content processing.
Right. Yep. So yeah. Makes sense.
The next slide, which is content governance. As you can see the animation here on the left, you can basically create a site access review using data access governance. It's called DAG, data access governance insights, to provide a top level view of potentially overshared files. So you can filter those by different sensitivity labels, privacy controls, Teams connected sites. You can basically say, you can identify the overshared policy, overshared sites, and then you can kick off site access reviews based on what you find, what an admin would find in the SharePoint Admin Center. So IT will be able to trigger site access reviews, and it would send an email to the site owner or whoever you designate the reviewer as, and they can take a look at what's being shared with whom, and they can adjust the permissions on the documents or the sites. And they can only give you certain access to certain groups, basically restrict the access and protect the content from oversharing. And then for overshared sites, as an admin, you can put a restricted access control policy, which would override all the sharing settings that you would have in a site. So you can have a top level policy, which would override everything. And then you can have that policy restriction at the top level. So again, you can intelligently identify which sites are overshared with other users, and then you can kick off the reviews, and then you can adjust the permissions, and you can have more restricted controls if you would like on certain sites and documents.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Okay. I got someone coming into my office giving me Christmas presents on this thing.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. On the live webinar as well. Yes. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. It's that time of the year on that. All right. We've got 10 minutes. Let's see if we can get through this without any more interruptions and questions. But carry on.
No, that's all right. That's pretty much the last slide, and I'm going to share one of the licensing slide coming up, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So these are some of the licensing. It's a pay-as-you-go, and it's a pre-built document processing model. If your PDF or image files are, there are standard documents, it's only 1 cent for the $0.01 per transaction. Whereas like structured, semi-structured files or unstructured files, you have to pay a little bit more to process those. So some of these features are pay-as-you-go. And Microsoft is currently running a promotion, limited time promotion, where you can try these out for free for, I think, for 100 documents or 100 pages or something like that. You can try these for free, and then you can basically sign up for these additional add-ons.
Right. Okay. Okay. Very, very cool. All right. Where can we find you on your blog and your website?
So I'm reachable on LinkedIn, and yeah, I used to blog, but with all the public speaking engagements and whatnot, with everything that's going on at work, I'm not making excuses here, but it's just like blogging, it took a back step in what I do, but I'm sharing knowledge using public speaking and podcasts like with you guys, and that's what I'm currently doing. Okay,
I've just put your LinkedIn profile into the chat. Okay. So just very, very quickly about yourself, do a little bit of a self promotion here. Who do you work for?
So I have a slide for that too. So I work for Proficient. It's a global consulting firm, and we have branches across the world, and we are global in our delivery. We have branches in North America, Latin America, Europe, India, and China. And what we do is pretty much anything on Azure, M365 deployments, tenant-to-tenant migrations, Power Platform enablements, modern internets, Microsoft Viva, and now Copilot, everything that's on pretty much everything on M365, we got you. So some of the main industries that we serve are healthcare, life sciences, automotive, retail. We have 20 plus years of experience in all these tech stacks, and over 125 certified consultants on board to help with any sorts of engagements.
Very cool. Thank you much. Okay, appreciate your time and your knowledge on this. Have we actually met on SharePoint Saturdays or not? In DC, Baltimore?
Yeah, probably. So I've been like SharePoint Saturday. Funny enough, Peter, it started at Virginia Beach, where I'm like 2 hours away from it. So that's where it's the mother of SharePoint Saturdays, and that's where everything started from. And eventually, SharePoint Saturday became like, I think, SharePoint Fest, maybe. And then now we have all these community events, which is EduCon.
Okay. Yeah, someone's asking if Joy
I think I did meet you in either DC or New York. One of those.
Yeah, well,
two places.
I'm one of the organizers of the New York. Someone's joined. Is the presentation being recorded? Yes, it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify and SoundCloud. Okay. We haven't done TikTok yet, but that's getting a bit too advanced for us all on that front. All right. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for all the attendees, and happy holidays. Bye.
Happy holidays. Thank you.